How you doing? Morning here in Thailand. Good morning. Evening if you're in Chicago. Anyway, it's 8:56 a.m. June 21, 2026. Brad Koerner, 72 years old. What did you get there, man? But anyway, this is the story of my memoir, how my memoir came about. Um, and I will say that writing it was probably one of the best experiences of my life. It's the best decision I ever made was to write my memoir. Uh, but marketing it and selling it, I was on Amazon, KDP, I get kicked off, and I get kicked out everywhere in my life anyway. You know, fired as a stockbroker. I worked for my dad. He fired me. I crashed the company car drunk, kicked out of college, kicked out of high school actually to get rid of demerits so they could graduate me, so I could graduate. Um, I've been watching how do you make a YouTube video that's, properly and that's going to get views and et cetera, algorithms. And I didn't even put my tooth in. I got a fake tooth over there, but what the hell? And I'm doing it my way. I love that song. And New York, New York, which is in my book, by the way. So how'd the memoir come about? Brad, get to the point. I never get to the point. I've changed the name like three times, man. Uh, the book itself, I think, is dynamite, and I don't care what you know, the book game is ridiculous. It's like you got to get reviews, and who's going to review my book? Some moron who voted for Donald Trump, you know, some religious hypocrite, because I did become a shooter of girls for magazines living in Thailand. But anyway, I'll get to the point. Um, I would lay around. This is probably around 2016, 17 in my bed here in Thailand, and I think about this trip I've been on, this overseas journey, and it's how amazing it is. And if I didn't write a book about it, uh, it just goes to your grave with you. You croak, and nobody knows your story. And so it's the best decision I ever made. I loved writing the book. I mean, I was totally into it. You know, there's a chapter, uh, part two. Uh, it's called "I'm Gonna Miss You" memoir. So I'll put the audiobook up. So anyway, the book starts out. I'm living in a unheated garage in Chicago. I was a drunk, and I was. This is around 1981, and I was like 28 years old. Uh, my wife had left me, took our 1 year old. I was bad news. So I had charisma. It's the one thing I had. I could get in any door. So I got hired by Dean Witter as a stockbroker, and it was just I got fired twice by them. Drinking. So let me get. I want to quickly get to. I don't want this to be a 1 hour video. Put it that way. So job after job, fired, and when they say there are no coincidences, or everything happens for a reason. So I decided I was going to go to St. Martin. I'd been there the year prior and just take a break. And I went to a same travel agent I had used prior to go to St. Martin the year before. And she quoted me a higher price. And there was a pamphlet on her, and I'm thinking, wow, it's a lot more. And there was a pamphlet on her desk, and it said Ski Innsbruck. And your life changes because of a pamphlet on a desk. Totally changes. And that's the case here. I mean, I said, how much is that? She said, $600 all inclusive, and hotel and fly back and ski in Innsbruck for a week. So I gave her this ultimatum: if you can get me on a flight tomorrow, I'll take it. and she's on the phone, and she goes, "You're done. You're booked." So I end up flying to Innsbruck, and I have an addictive personality, so I was addicted to sex, alcohol, and eventually new countries. Once I got bored, I'd just go to another country, not back to the U.S. That's for sure. And so I ski Innsbruck one day, and then I met this group of people drinking, playing pool in Innsbruck, and fell in love with a girl, and she and I got involved, and and then there was another girl, and I think we got involved. And by the time I left Innsbruck, I was running, pal, for the train, and I bought a ticket. I decided not to get on the return flight, and I bought a ticket for Spain because I wanted to get south, and I don't know Europe, so it doesn't matter. I just bought a ticket for south as far as you could go. And I get on the train. I ran to the train station. I think the girl did come with me, but I can't remember. So I'm on the train. I meet this guy, this handsome guy, and we start talking. Well, I just started modeling in Chicago, after getting fired by Dean Witter. And then I went to Payne Weber and then A.G. Becker, 3 companies. None of it worked out. And I start modeling. So I'm talking to this guy. He says, I work as a model. I said, I've been doing some modeling in Chicago. I just, I gotten a few ads, jobs. And so he said, why don't you get off the train with me in Nice? I said, and I'll take you to my agency. I said, sure. So we go to his model agency. They sign me. Next thing I know, I'm working in the French Riviera. I mean, Nice, France. It's dynamite. Okay. So, in fact, I was in Love Boat. I was an extra in Love Boat. They shot one down there. And then I found that Love Boat, that episode, and there I am on the beach. I'm just in the background, extra. I'm hired as an extra. So I put that in the book. There's 200 pictures in this book of mine. So here, I'll show you a cover, and then I'll get back to the story. Anyway, come on, Brad, baby. Get with it, man. You pathetic dweeb. All right, so that's the new name. My life as an expat. I've done such a piss poor marketing job. That's me in a movie in Hong Kong. I worked in Hong Kong for 2 years, but I'll get into it. So I'm in Nice, and then I meet this. There's always a girl involved. Usually, a girl, drugs, and booze. And not drugs till later in Thailand. I became a drug addict. So fell in love with Anne-Françoise Pelissier, and we end up taking a train to Paris. Well, there was another model there, handsome guy, and he said he's going to Milan. You want to go? And 3 of us drove to Milan, right along the coast, Mediterranean Sea. And this guy, he looked like James Bond himself and driving fast. And I actually got signed by an agency in Milan, but Anne-Françoise didn't because she was too short. And if you're in that certain, uh, if you're in the top places like Milan, you gotta have the right height and et cetera. So then we ended up taking a train to Paris, and I got signed. I don't think she got signed, and Cafe but anyway, she ends up running away from me. Every girl in my life is running away from me. It tells you about my personality. And I was sober at this time. I got sober in Chicago prior to taking this trip, and I stayed sober for 13 years. So, in fact, my parents came to visit us in Paris, and we all went to dinner. And then the weirdest thing happened. I get back, and she's gone. Okay, she went back to Nice. And then my parents were originally supposed to meet me in Nice, but then we were in Paris, so they met us in Paris. They came with their friends, and then they ended up going to Nice. And my dad's friend said, Joe, that looks like Anne Francois, Brad's girlfriend. And my dad said, no, no, no. She's with Brad in Paris. He said, are you sure? Let's check it out. They go up, it's her. And you know what I mean? So they ended up having dinner together. She was a wonderful person, but I don't want to get into all this. I just want to kind of see if I can get this thing, before too many minutes. So anyway, so I'm in Paris and do a bunch of modeling, and I so here's the next significant thing that happened. Memory from back from 85 to 2000. Well, I started the book, I guess, started writing it actually in 2019. You remember one line, and I'm modeling in this job in Paris, and this photography couple from Holland, boyfriend, girlfriend, whatever. And the guy says, "Hey, Brad, man, if you ever get a chance to go to Singapore, man, do it. It's so cool." So, he said that. And then all of a sudden I get a cigarette ad, shot in Santorini, Greece. So I go to a casting and for cigarettes. In fact, I was smoking those little cigars that look like cigarettes, right? And when I went in, and that was Rudy Malachek. He was a famous photographer. Didn't know it at the time. That was research for the book. And I'm in there, and I go, "You want me to lose this?" And he goes, "No, no, keep it." Takes a Polaroid, and then I end up getting booked. Fly to Athens, boat to Santorini, do the job. Then I met a girl in the airport. It's like a rooftop. This is the charisma I had. And so everybody's in the sun waiting for their flight to wherever. I'm going back to Paris. And I go up to her and I said, "Can I kiss you? You're beautiful." She says, "Yes." Then she writes on a little piece of paper, "If you're ever in Berlin." And I ended up going to Berlin, but I don't want to get into all that. Keep this, see if I can just, you know what I mean? And so I fly back to Paris, and then I do end up going to Dusseldorf, and then I call her and go to Berlin, and I end up going to East Berlin. Incredible story, man. East Berlin, and I'm with this other girl with a baby carriage, and she folds it up, get on a bus. We're in East Berlin. We go to a party. Give me a break, man. Nobody will believe this stuff, but I don't care. And I got a lot of pictures to prove it. So I don't have pictures of that. In fact, when we were going in the apartment, she goes, "Don't look at that guy." He's like SS or whatever. So then when I got back to Paris, I took that cigarette ad money, and flew to Singapore. And right away, I'm in commercials. I still remember the commercial. You get more Changi airports in Singapore. You get more change at Changi. So this is 1986 now. And so I love Singapore. I love all these places. Southeast Asia. That's where the Southeast Asian seed was planted. That's where I fell in love with Southeast Asia. And I'm still here 35 years, 40 years later. So I decide that I want to study acting, man. I'm decent at it. We're doing commercials. I was just footloose and fast. If I had an idea, I'd do it. You're young, right? So I took a train from Singapore to Bangkok, flew to Paris. I was actually going to stay in Paris, and then I said, "No, I'll go to New York." Fly to Kennedy Airport. I have no money at this point, very little. And I call my grandparents in New Jersey, and I say, "Grandpa, I'm at Kennedy Airport. This is Brad." He goes, "Who?" I go, "It's your grandson, Brad. I'm in Kennedy Airport." And he goes, "I'll leave the door open." I love this guy, man, because he was cool. So I'm in New Jersey, commuting to New York. I go to HB Studio. That's where I studied acting. And it was incredible at Manhattan. And I had charisma, man. So I in Chicago, I started roller skating, right? I got pictures of me in the book, roller skating to work, 200 full page. I mean, don't think that's nothing, man. Pictures, here's that's me modeling in Paris. There's my first modeling job, Chicago. Roller skating to work as a stockbroker in Chicago. Me with Richard Koerner, movie called Last Flight Out, shot in Thailand. There's me in Singapore. And I shot these covers in Thailand, and then there's me in a movie in Hong Kong. So in all these pictures, you know, the house I grew up in, Singapore, all these pictures, 200, man. Me in Paris. There's that's a great story, by the way, because they were wrapping that bridge, uh, when I was there, and you know, so the pictures make a big deal. There's my Nicaraguan wife. My story's so crazy. There's my Thai wife. I've been married 5 times, and you know what's cool? Actual letters to my parents, not typing it out. Makes it a little more believable, doesn't it? So anyway, boy, oh boy, how long can I make a video? 30 minutes? You think that's too long? All these YouTube videos. You want to get 60,000 views and you script it out and do this and look at that. Not one thing am I doing. I'm just making a video. And I hope I plugged it in because sometimes I've made these long, blah, blah, blah. And I forgot to plug this thing in. You know what I mean? All right. So now I'm in New York, roller skating everywhere. And I got a job as a skate guard at Rockefeller Center. I'm rolling by Rockefeller Center. There's a skating rink, ice skating rink. And I just skate up there, and I'm telling you, charisma, you can't explain it, man. Doors open. I said, do you need any, I need a job, put it that way. He goes, you're hired. So I put my skates on, and I'm a skate guard at Rockefeller Center skating rink. Then my boss comes running up to me a couple of days later, and he says, hey, Liberace's going to be here later today. I mean, he's going to be here, and you're going to be in the show. You're going to push the sleigh or whatever. I go, okay. He walks away. I'm like, what the? Liberace! The Liberace! So Liberace shows up. We do our thing. People all around. I'm pushing the sleigh with these other people pushing the sleigh, dressed in these uniforms. And then the show's over. Liberace and his entourage go inside Rockefeller Center. And my boss comes running up and said, hey, Liberace wants to thank you personally. This is all dead true. Don't care if anybody believes me. Couldn't care less. You've lived some boring life and you can't believe things happen to people. Okay, fine. So I go inside. We have lunch and with his people, and he's just a great guy. Period. Not like this superstar. Just normal. Hey, Brad. Hi, Liberace. You know what I mean? And so. And when I researched for the book, I found out he died of AIDS probably about 4 months later. This is 1986, and he died in 1987. And it just broke my heart. And the famous actor I worked with in Hong Kong, Leslie Chung, the most famous guy in Asia, recognized by the Academy Award or whatever that's called, and he jumped 23 stories, and I found out, and I cried. It just so after New York, I want to try to see if I can get to, I met a Philippine girl in New York, and she and I ended up flying to Hong Kong because that Southeast Asian seed was planned. And I worked with Clapton in New York in that Budweiser. I think it was a Budweiser after midnight. And he and I talked on the sidewalk. We were sitting outside because they're blowing smoke in the place. And those smoke machines, and I'm sitting out there, and he comes out. I didn't say hi. I didn't want to bug him. And then I called my Philippine girlfriend. I said, hey, Clapton's here, man. She comes over, sits next to him. She was beautiful. And they're talking. She goes, that's Brad, my boyfriend. We ended up becoming buddies. So we talked for like half hour, 45 minutes. So I think he invited us to dinner. Eric, if that's not true, but I kind of remember, but we never did go to dinner or anything. So then Rika and I fly to Hong Kong, and I'm in movie after movie after movie after movie. Okay. I'm with the biggest movie stars, all featured roles. I'm with swords. I've never had any training for this stuff. And I had friends we call Guilo, right? That's an expat in Hong Kong. It's called the Guilo. And those guys all had training, but I got the featured role because I had some acting experience. I was in Big with Tom Hanks. I was an extra. I can't see myself in the movie. I don't remember, an extra just sits around and stuff, but walks around, whatever, in the background. So, but I had enough experience. And I got all these roles, and I got pictures, pictures in the book about screenshots from those movies, which is fascinating, man. Puts you in my shoes, and there are some great stories. There's me. There's Leslie. I'm not going to say it again. I told you. That's me in a movie in Hong Kong. Okay, and then just tons of pictures. There's me, modeling job, Taiwan, and that's when I bought my camera. There's Rika, and that camera I bought a Nikon F3, and that became my new career in Thailand. But I shot doing these movies, and I shot a girl. When I bought the camera, I bought lights and stuff, and I saw this magazine. I was playing with this magazine, and I went to the office of the magazine, and I said I could shoot those girls in the Philippines because I'd been there, and there's girls all over the place. And he says, "Go ahead, I'll give you $5,000 or whatever he said." And I went there. It was my first time. I brought the film back. I remember him looking with the slides in those days, looking with the loop, and he said, "Brad, I don't like the work, but I'll pay you anyway." And I ended up going to China, brought the lights for a modeling job. It's in the book, that modeling job from China. And I ended up shooting a girl, kind of pictures, right? Like, and when I got back, and the same guy I'd sold those other ones to that he said weren't any good, but I'll pay you anyway. I brought him the roll of film, and he goes, "Do you know, Brad, if you got caught going from China to Hong Kong with that film, it's a death penalty." Honest to God, he said that. Okay. So that job was a disaster because he printed those, and then we did 2 hotel. We flew to one city in China, Xi'an, and then to Beijing. A huge job, makeup artist, a photographer, people from the ad agency. I'm the model, one of the models, and so expensive. And then I ended up moving to Thailand, and I called my agent in Hong Kong. I said, "Any movies or anything that you could book, whatever?" And they said, "No, big trouble. They canceled the whole job because the pictures you shot." Because I shot some in the hotel too of the guy setting up his lights for the shooting with me, and so the whole thing was a disaster, and they didn't pay anybody. I got paid because I got paid early, which you give an extra 10%, and ended up moving to Bangkok. So okay, that's about all right. So we'll end it there, and then I'll pick up Bangkok, where I will say I moved to Bangkok, met a girl, ended up marrying her right away. That's my third wife, and then I worked with. So I'm still doing the acting movie. So they shot a film, made for TV movie, Last Flight Out, with Richard Crenna, and I got booked. And I got a picture of me and Crenna sitting in the car. I worked with Richard Crenna, and I had a speaking role. I had a few lines, and I listened to him, and man, not that good, man. I talk too fast in that movie, but I'm a amateur, man. And then I work with the Joffrey Lewis in another movie. And we're driving around on motor scooters they gave us a day off because they didn't need us. And me and Joffrey Lewis, he's a pretty big star in the USA, right? I mean, we're driving around. We see this massage parlor, and I kind of figured I was Thailand. I'll be the host. And I said, "Mr. Lewis, would you like to have a massage?" And he goes, "No, Brad, but I'll wait for you." Just a cool guy, man. So, so I did. That was called. No, it's in the book. But anyway, with Joffrey Lewis, and I got a couple pictures, 200 full page color images in that book. So 25 minutes. I'll pick it up in Thailand next time. Thank you.